So I have been scouring the newspapers all week, the past 2 weeks, and I just don't know what we could talk about today on The Lens. I'm thinking something related to religion, ideally related to the convergence of religion with mainstream media, maybe a religious leader, any of that stuff. I am at a loss. Listen, folks, I'm going to Google Catholic Church News during the opening credits and hope something comes up. I'm actually quite hopeful. I'm hopeful something comes up. So roll those credits. Oh my gosh, holy moly. The past 2 weeks have been pretty busy. Catholic Church News yields many things. Welcome back to The Lens, and might I say, while it is good to be back, we've been off for a few weeks. We were happy to give up our precious airtime to the man of the week, the man of the month, the man of the year, the man of La Mancha, Pope Francis. Musical reference, huh? Helen, it's been quite a couple weeks.
It's been a whirlwind.
Pope Francis was in these United States of America. What'd you think?
I thought it went well. You know, he got here and back in one piece, and we all got really excited. So
Yeah.
It was a successful trip, I think.
Charles, if he was getting a report card, what do you give him?
Well, I'm not going to put myself in a position to give the Pope a letter grade, but let's just say he passed.
He passed.
He passed.
Was it pass-fail?
He was taking this trip pass-fail. Yeah, I would say I'm going to give him a letter grade. Can I do A+?
A+.
Okay. He did a great job, and I was really impressed with him. And I imagine here at Catholic TV, a major media conglomerate in the country, you guys were pretty busy. Helen, tell us a little bit about what your week was like. Was this a week you could have taken off?
No.
Why
no,
not?
No, I was just, covering the social media and just making sure all the video on demand portion of it was getting to the right place at the right time, and it was a whirlwind. Lots of late nights.
Some of your favorite hashtags? Well, the main one was hashtag Pope in Us.
Pope in USA, yeah.
US, okay.
Yeah, Pope in US. What do you mean?
Other hashtags that were doing well.
Pope to Congress.
Pope to Congress.
UN.
And Charles, yourself, what was it like for you this week? Was it just craziness?
It was very, very crazy. Though I do remember a dear friend of mine pointing out to me when the Pope was visiting the White House. A friend of mine explained that the pageantry. He just must be so impressed with because they had the fife and drum corps, the bands, the flags, and I did allow that perhaps living in the Vatican in Rome, he might know a little bit about pageantry and about ritual and about costume and everything else. But it was wonderful, and as a display of God's grace, just exuding from one man, it
was absolutely beautiful. Folks, it's hard to compress all of the beautiful things that happened those 2 weeks that 1 week that Pope Francis was here in the United States, but I've broken it down to my favorite three. My three favorite things. Number one, folks, I'm just going to list it as cute kid singing in Philadelphia. Bobby Hill. He had the voice of an angel, and he totally wowed the crowd. He wowed the Pope. He wowed Mark Zuckerberg, which, is not as cool as wowing the Pope, but it's still pretty cool. Not Mark Zuckerberg. I'm kidding. Mark Wahlberg. Marky Mark and Mark Zuckerberg. Whatever. They're both, doing pretty well. They're both top.
I wouldn't
top
have even
marks.
called you on it. I would just
they're
let
both
you
top
keep going.
marks. They're big marks. So Bobby Hill, way to go. You did a fantastic job, and I loved. I never heard that song before, but when he sang for the Pope, I really thought there was something else going on there. That voice was not just him. It was the Holy Spirit coming out too. Just unbelievable. Someone's told me that Charles can sing like that as well.
That equally high. Yeah, he sings just as high as that.
Well, I'm well known in some circles for my countertenor stylings, yes.
Don't be modest. Don't be modest.
Okay,
it's a lot of circles.
Maybe at the end. Maybe at the end of the show he'll do a little Bobby Hill action. Okay, folks, number two. my second favorite thing that Pope Francis did. Did you see Pope Francis visiting the school in Harlem? Unbelievable how much these kids love him. I heard my sister, Carrie Weber for America Media, was actually in the room covering this, and she just said the room was electric. Everything was happening. A lot of the students were speaking in Spanish, and the Pope was very comfortable speaking Spanish. It was just this unbelievable moment. And to me, I watch those images, I hear about that, and it's in those personal encounters with Pope Francis that I think we really, truly see what the encounters were like with Christ. When people met Jesus, when people were interacting with Jesus, you see something going on there that's extra, extra special. I mean, Pope Francis interacting with kids, what do you think, Helen?
I just think that it must be very difficult, I think, to have that level of intimacy with every person that you encounter. Like, he just like totally gives himself over to each moment.
Yeah.
And that must be so exhausting, but he totally commits to it. And seeing him with the children was awesome. I love that they were talking in Spanish to him. I think it's so cool that he can come to this country, and there's so many Spanish-speaking people here who can speak to their Pope in his native language, and there was just a connection there that was really cool.
I absolutely thought the kids, Charles, the Pope interacting with children, doesn't it bring a tear to your eye?
It's breathtaking, and for me, it was very special, the Vespers service at St. Pat's in New York. Church had been one of my haunts when I was in my youth, and it was very nice to see.
Folks, my third favorite moment of the Pope Francis trip to the United States was when Pope Francis met mini Pope Francis. little Austin Powers reference there. I mean, this little kid was super cute. Pope Francis, if you watch the video, if you see him, he was totally amused and loved this little kid dressed up like the Pope, and the parents were holding him up there, and he had the baby brought over, and he blessed. Anywho, folks, this was one of the most special things that was going on in this country. And I'm going to tell you something a little bit from my perspective. I'm going to share with you an experience that didn't happen on TV. It wasn't particularly noteworthy, and it will not be on anyone's top 5 list. Hence, I'd like to tell it in a very old school way. I'd like to share it as A Word with Weber. Me, my old segment on Catholic TV. You see, I was not one of the millions who traveled to see the Pope, be blessed by the Pope, or encounter the Pope in any of the cities. And I imagine for them this experience was beyond powerful. It was life-changing. It was beautiful. I know many here at Catholic TV went down there. Yet I must say, sitting in my underwear on a couch in West Medford, Massachusetts, watching a Catholic TV feed of the Pope, driving through D.C., speaking at the White House, and serving as the world's pastor, I was moved to tears in everything I witnessed, feeling his blessings, his grace, his love through TV. And I was even moved to get down on my knees, all by myself, in my family room in front of the screen, and pray, and offer up prayer and joy and hospitality from afar in simply watching Pope Francis here in our country. And I did not take a selfie with him. I did not wave to him. I did not meet him. I did not touch him. I did not listen to him in person. And let me tell you, there was a little bit of FOMO, fear of missing out, in that week where I was not Pope chasing or being a pilgrim. Yet through the glory of God and the magic of television, the Pope made an unscheduled visit to a tiny townhouse in Medford, Massachusetts, as love washed over me in the most profoundly beautiful way. So I thank Catholic TV for bringing the Pope to me, and I thank the Pope for coming and being part of all of our lives. Folks, we'll be right back after this break with, you guessed it, more discussion on Pope Francis.